Well, hi, I'm Joel Soisson, and I'm with the School of Hollywood, and delighted to be here.
Hi, this is Steve Owens, your host of School of Hollywood. I am so glad you joined us today. I personally want to thank you because you are helping us make the top of the charts in podcasts. I'd like to ask you a favor, though, and that is to tell a couple friends about it. And if you even have some time, please write a review for us, okay? All right, let's get on to today's show because it's a great one. Hi, this is Steve Owens with School of Hollywood. Joel, I'm excited that you are here. You started the career of one of Hollywood's most famous actors, Keanu Reeves, in Bill and Ted's Big Adventure. How's it feel to be somebody that created one of the biggest stars in Hollywood?
You know, that's what filmmaking's like, as I'm sure you know, is that you spend so much time focusing on the next one that you're not almost ever looking in the rearview mirror. Unless you hit a dry patch and you go, well, is this the last film I'm ever going to make? Let me see. How do I measure up then if this is going to be the last one? And then that's when Bill and Ted does come up. It's one I'm actually obviously pretty proud of, but it's a long time ago, you know.
It certainly was. And
faraway place.
You know, and it was called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, not Big Adventure. I just got excited.
Yes. No worries.
Keanu Reeves is one of my favorite actors, but you have been the man in the horror film world. First of all, I got to ask you: did you get nightmares from the stuff that you write?
Other people's films, not my own, because you see the sausage making that goes into it, and that takes away the fear factor. But I'm a big sucker for a good horror and a good scare, because I'm like everybody else. When I go into a dark room, I forget it's a movie and I'm completely immersed in it. But it's like two different worlds. And I much prefer other people's horror films to my own.
Yeah, I had one that scared the daylights out of me, and the nightmare continued on for weeks. Phantasm. When the guy goes, boy.
Yeah. See, you got to have those iconic characters and images, and then you can go on and on and on and just work them to death.
When you're writing a horror film, what's the process on that?
Well, it depends. It's a two-way street. It's either I've got this idea for a film. What do you think? And that's the harder route by far. The easier route is if you've made a couple, then they come to you going, I need another installment of Nightmare on Elm Street or Prophecy or Children of the Corn or Hellraiser or whatever. And you go, okay, now I got to put my sort of TV series hat on. You've got all the characters teed up, the basic storyline. You've just got to advance it some way that is hopefully a little bit unexpected and rewarding. And that's a really kind of a fun exercise, because you're really you've got half the work done and you can concentrate on the other half. And I've had a lot of fun in my career, just like carrying forward a franchise, sometimes killing a franchise with some bad judgments, but often keeping them alive and making them worthwhile.
So you've had some really, really big ones: the Dracula, the Pinhead, the Hellraisers, the Prophecy. Which would be your favorite that you've worked on?
As far as horror films are concerned, and I guess I have to use the word loosely for this one, but Prophecy with Christopher Walken playing the Archangel Gabriel, because the premise was so rich. It had all of its origins in John Milton's Paradise Lost, and this whole idea of a war in heaven that creates a second hell was just a brilliant idea that a friend of mine, Greg Wyden, came up with. And he wrote and directed the original. I produced it. Very hard to get off the ground because it was so sort of theoretical. It was like a thinking man's Omen or Exorcist, because it had so much to do with, literally, these angels were coming around going like, would you explain the Nicene Council to me? Because I don't quite get what they were going for. Well, that happened in 4 4th century AD, I think, and a lot of us aren't really sure ourselves. But it refocused my whole appreciation for the Christian canon and just what it all meant. And it was still also really, really scary. And it had some great actors. I mean, Walken as Gabriel, and Viggo Mortensen as Lucifer, and Virginia Madsen as the every woman of the movie, and a bunch of great character actors that you see still to this day. I'm just walked away from that going, I want to make 100 more of these. And I don't often do that with a horror franchise, at least one that we've started.
Do you find it difficult to write somebody, say, for example, you're talking about one of the films that you did that you picked up, the Nightmare. Do you find it hard to write a sequel for that versus writing an original?
I didn't write the sequel to Nightmare. Basically, Bob Shea at New Line had seen some other film that myself and my producing partner had made that he thought would be a good fit for this sequel, that he was putting his entire operation on, whether this lived or died. He just gambled everything on it. Because the original Nightmare he made with no profit participation, just so he could get it made. This one he was going to make a profit on, so he really cared about it. So we supervised the whole writing and producing and all, but I didn't write that one. But remarkably, I found out years later that we were credited with making the first truly gay mainstream horror film. And I found that really amusing, and I was kind of proud of it, because I had no idea, nor did really any of us except our gay lead, that we were doing anything but just doing a sequel to a Nightmare on Elm Street 1. But when you go back and people show you and you follow the bouncing ball, that it is very much a coming out story in many different ways. And it was kind of cool to have that sort of new perspective on a film years and years after you've actually made it.
With the change of visual effects coming in, how has that affected the horror film genres?
I think for an audience, it's only made them better. And for filmmakers, it's just such a cheat for me. I mean, when I see a digital effect that I know is digital, then it loses its impact and immediacy. Of course, it's still film. I mean, it's no more or less real than a rubber heart being pulled out of a rubber body, but it's different. I mean, you feel the physicality of the makeup, the special prosthetics that we had then. And now you're just shooting guys with green pajamas and dots all over them and acting to a tennis ball. And you're just like, where's the magic? Well, it's tons of magic, but we don't get to do it.
Yeah. The fun part that you loved, what you started in the business doing, is gone from it.
Yeah.
Speaking of little green men, you did a project called 6 Days in Roswell.
Yeah, my whole documentary career I owe to a guy named Roger Nygaard, who I don't know if you've ever had a chance to interview him, but he's a wizard of, well, he also edits a lot of like Veeps and he's nominated all around for Emmys, but he also is a great documentary filmmaker. He did a little film we did called Trekkies as well. But they're all with the same kind of sly wit. He finds comedy in anything he does, and obviously forgiving anybody who's a true believer, but folks who are convinced that the aliens were hanging out in Roswell and crashed and doing all these crazy things. He makes a lot of fun with them, and loving fun, but it's just hilarious. I guess you've seen it.
Yeah.
And he does that with Star Trek fans too. And I was just a producer on the film, but when I saw the film, I thought, you've just kicked your audience in the teeth. You've taken a movie that should be a special, welcoming celebration of being a Star Trek fan, and you've turned them into fools and idiots. And so I was dead wrong with that movie. I was ready to unload it for like peanuts and move on to something decent. And he stuck with it. And the movie became a tremendous success. At the time, it was one of the top three, I think one of the top two earning documentaries. The only one that beat us out at the time was Madonna's Truth or Dare. Hugely successful and driven by these Trekkies who just loved being lampooned.
Wow.
They were the ones that supported it in droves and still do. We're coming out with our 25-year anniversary edition this year.
Release of all the documents on, from the government on the UFOs.
Yes, that would be nice to see. So we can make fun of them.
And speaking of fun movies, you actually did an American Pie. I'm looking at your IMDb going, horror, 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 horror. American Pie, horror, horror, horror.
That was horror, 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 horror. I just did that actually it was my company more than me. I by that time, the American Pie franchise had, how do I put it discreetly, devolved into just ridiculous, like frat boy humor and sex jokes and stuff. And it was just like, okay, fine, we'll get involved because it was a good paycheck, but it's not one of those things. If I actually wasn't at the time trying to run an overhead with a staff of people and keeping the lights on and just moving forward, I would probably not have done it.
But the one thing about that franchise, it does have Eugene Levy, who is one of the best comedy people.
Does. There are saving graces in every franchise. And if you, which I love about what you just did, you found the one thing that I could actually hang my hat on, because he's always delightful and doing a little bit better even now, I think.
Oh, he's doing great now. So
yeah,
he's had an amazing career. What do you find as struggles being a producer?
Besides the money chase, I've done a lot of now producing, directing, and writing, and probably my favorite job is writing, because you get to sit at home, stare out your window, and just think of ways of imagining what you'd like to see on film, and not worrying at all about how to get it actually done. It's what I call leaving a thumbtack on the chair of the director and producer, because oftentimes they don't even see it coming until they try to actually make it work. I don't have to worry about that. Producers are on the opposite side of the spectrum. All they do all day long is soak up a world of hurt. People don't come to them to go, you're doing such a great job. They come to you going, this is broken, fix it. I have a problem. I need help. Or my ego's in tatters and I need somebody to buck me up, or I need more money. Where's the rest of the money? Because I got to get cash flow. It's just, what about the fun of making a movie, right? Isn't it cool that we're out here, a team making this vision happen? And it's part of that. I'll admit a lot of it is a joy. But there is so much kindergarten top work done, particularly for line producers, and for the creative producers, they get to take at least a step away from that. But you're just dealing with then your executives' problems instead of your crew's problems. So it really is just pure problem solving to me.
When you've done the horror films, how much have been the distribution and this is the way the cut's got to be, or you got to cut this out, it's too much? Have they been a problem in the horror film genre as they would be in a mainstream big theatrical movie?
I think the same rules apply. It's just that I think in this day and age, you got to get to the scares quicker. I mean, there's this old adage, every 5 minutes you need a scare, which I think is kind of defeats the purpose, because you're not able to really set things up like in here. Now that I'm a man of a certain age, I think that using the term "in the old days" is like toxic. But the older films generally took their time setting up the plot and the characters, and then the scare. And some of the more recent, not super recent, but one of my favorite movies of all time is The Others, all built around this like bunch of people in a house that they don't open the windows. Why don't they open the windows? Why don't they open the curtains? Why do they want to keep it dark? And they just pull that string. I don't know if you remember, for like 60, 80 minutes before you actually cop to the reason. And by then your skin is crawling. I mean, I just love that. Instead of like every third door you open, there's a guy with a hatchet.
After having all that in your head, it's like you've almost done some meditation and you've come up with a new film, My Best Worst Adventure. Watching the trailer, it is really a coming of life story, a big change from a horror film. The young girl that's in it, she is remarkable.
Yeah, I have to say that was a bit of a detour from my normal stock and trade, but it came from a desire just to make a movie about real people's experiences and still use what I had learned about tension and action and a little bit of horror even, to sort of keep it going, to drive it. But obviously it's centered around a single person who is just fantastic, Lily Patra. And she had to tell an entire story without ever speaking a word. And that was a bit of heavy lifting that is rough on any actor, even rougher for somebody who had never acted on even a high school play or anything in her life. She was more or less the character in the movie. She was basically being truant from her school one day and walked into an audition that we were putting on in Chiang Rai in northern Thailand, and just walked in front of the camera without knowing anything that she was even there for. And it wasn't so much that she blew me away with her experience, because there was no real dialogue to even say. She just stood there and told us a little bit about who she was. And I realized instantly she has this lived life, which is almost identical to the characters. And if I could tap into that, I'd have something. And I felt that we did, at the end of the day, let this girl, just this weird synergy of story and actor, she just acted out her life. And it even got to the point where, she could cry on cue, but she had to go there in a very sort of heartbreaking way, because, the first time I actually asked her to cry, I said, what's your best way of getting into this? I know you're not used to acting and stuff, so what would you like me to do to help you? And she said, just tell me I'm worthless. And I just I can't do that. And of course, being the mercenary that I am, I did exactly that. And she just broke down. And it was sort of magical to watch. And also just after it was over, I'm thinking, what does a life have to go through to get to that point where that's your trigger?
Wow.
And now she's this magical actress that I would love to see work again and again and again. And that was a huge discovery for me.
Just from watching the trailer on it, it really is beautiful, and you can sense that she is the character in it. I actually think you should take and try to put that up for a foreign film for the Oscars.
I thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I may be the weak link in that, being an American, because it's now, I think it's sort of perceived as this kind of hybrid thing, which I actually like, because you know as well as I do that being a foreign film is the kiss of death. And I may have found my unique space in the film industry by making an art family film, but I never really saw it as that. But if I let it become too much of a foreign movie, I'm sure that's kind of where it would land if such a genre even exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took some great pains that what little dialogue is in the movie, I tried to make sure that it was largely English, or what I like to call like peanuts speak, where the parents just go blah, 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 and you don't even know what they're saying. And it really doesn't matter because you're in the kid's frame of reference.
Excellent job on the film. And
Thank you so much. Appreciate
once
that.
again, the name is My Best Worst Adventure. How did you come up with the title for that? Because that's a tongue twister.
It is. And I don't pretend to be able to take credit for it. I had like 30 other ones that that's the problem with, 20,000 films a year getting made or whatever it is. There are no titles left in case you've been looking for a title for any of your films. They're all on other people's movies. So I just send it over to the distributor and go, what about this? What about this? Nope, doesn't clear. And so they actually came back at me saying, well, what about My Best Worst Adventure? And I kind of liked it, not the least of which I don't think this was forward in my mind exactly, but the way my career sort of started with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and then to come around to a film called My Best Worst Adventure, there seemed to be a sort of a symmetry to that I kind of liked. So yeah, and once you get your tongue to wrap it around it a couple of times, I think you kind of remember it.
I'd try saying it 10 times.
I'm going to force everybody I know to do that, actually.
What advice would you give an actor who wants to do horror films?
Don't live in LA, for one. As a producer and a director, I have found that the biggest challenge we have by far in the acting world is getting a good actor locally. Because remember, most horror films are, as you know, done with limited funds, shall we say?
Yes.
And so we're always, running off to the next state that has the great rebate. I'm doing that next month in Oklahoma on a film called Seven Cemeteries, which is a reimagining really of the Magnificent Seven with Danny Trejo as kind of the Yul Brynner role. And we're dying to find good local actors in Oklahoma, because Oklahoma has there must be a dozen movies shooting there right now because it has such an awesome rebate program.
Yeah, actually, Ryan Francis, a friend of mine who did the Peter Pan, the young Peter Pan with Robin Williams, he's done probably 8 films there since October.
Yeah,
and the lead.
That's the way to do it, and it means you have to be ready to sort of move a lot and or sometimes it's just a matter of being willing to work local and putting it out there to the local casting people that I may live in LA, but I will find myself a place to live and I will work local. But even that now with this whole rebate situation, where if the person truly is local, then you get 30 to 38%, depending back on every dollar you spend. That's huge.
Yeah.
And what's even huger, if that's a word, our last president used it, so it must be a word. So the hotel and living and per diem and all that stuff, it just makes what is already the highest paid rate on a set just astronomical. And so, yeah, just if you're good. If you're not good, stay in LA. That's my advice.
And what advice would you give somebody who wants to produce a horror film?
Somebody a lot smarter than me, said a producer is nothing but a dog with a great script tied to his neck. Collar, I think, was how it was put. And it really is, if you want to be a creative producer and call the shots, that's what you need. You have to find that great script or that great IP, which is intellectual property, I think is what it is, that everybody wants to make or should want to make. And a lot of that means going into archives, because, you know, anything that comes out in the New York Times or the New York or Harper's is going to be glommed up the second it's out there. But there are gems out there, novels and novellas and short stories. And there's a guy named Phil Fracassi who is just doing amazing work right now in the short story field, like the upcoming Stephen King. And just finding one of those guys or women and getting really a partnership going, because you're not going to be able to give them $20,000 for an option unless you're connected to some wealth. But more likely than not, you're going to go, let's work this together. I'm going to push this like a madman, and I'm going to get it to all the people I can, and those people will get it to people that they can, and you're going to network around. And yeah, it's that project. Because I found after Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, for example, which was one I got hired to do a slate of pictures before I actually got onto that film, because I don't think the studio would have ever made it otherwise. But after that film, because they didn't want to hire me again at the same studio after what they thought was going to be a disaster, I was looking for my next project. And for the life of me, I couldn't find something that was really something that would wake up the industry. They knew who I was. Very shortly after that, the picture was a raging success, but I didn't know what do I even want to make next? And that was a very bad strategic move. So even before or after you make your first film, just always have that next one ready. Know what it's going to be and be ready to pitch the hell out of it.
You find that you can't make a horror film these days without having somebody of name value in them?
That's always been the case, I think. The only difference between then and now is you really needed the name before, because your cheapest film was still like $1 million to pull off. Now that everybody can make a film with their iPhone, there is kind of a leveling the playing field where you can make a movie, you can let your brilliance shine if you are brilliant enough, and that can sometimes, be the Soderbergh thing that gets you noticed, But boy, if you want to get anything more than $200,000 or $300,000 from your uncle, you got to have somebody, and that's, it's pretty hard because actors know they're the currency of the realm. They know you're trying to trade on their name, so they're going to make it hard. And the indies I've been doing lately, when I've needed a name, I've actually paid more for that name than the studios do. Paradoxically, these guys will work for half the rate on a $60-100 million movie, or God forbid, a Marvel movie. But mine, since they know we're trading on their name, there's a penalty to that. So yeah, actors, they know how to play it. And so that's a very tricky game that I haven't succeeded at, or if I have, it's been accidentally. But again, it comes back to the script. If the script really has a part that's chewy and really fun, or, which is something I try to do as much as possible, you're playing all these roles. They're all the same, and you're making bundle at it. But what if you played this role, which you've never done before, and is a reach, and it's a scary one, but if it pays off, you'll be in a whole nother actor's arena. You'll be an actor and not a movie star. That's sometimes a good way to sort of bend the odds your way.
This is great information. What can we see coming up in the near future from you? And what would you be looking for actors for around the US?
Move to Oklahoma. There's the little Seven Samurai. Well, yeah, it is originally that film that I'm doing next month, and then later in the year, early next, there's a film in South Africa that is a riff on the Treasure of Sierra Madre. And yes, I'm mining old films for new ideas, either because I'm creatively bankrupt at this point, or I like to think it's because of this whole IP thing again, where you get people interested if they know the short way of selling it. If it's based on a classic movie, if it's based on a beloved, novel or whatever it is, you get a lot more traction because people recognize it. Oh, okay. My version of Sierra Madre is post-COVID, where, they have to go through this, I guess what you'd call a COVID dystopian future in order to get the treasure, which sort of just changes the angle a little bit, makes it kind of fun, I think. But yeah, those are my two immediate things. And I've got a couple financing partners who loved my Best Worst Adventure and want to do another film in that genre. So I didn't think I would be a family adventure guy, but don't count me out. That may be part of my new, how do you say this? Oeuvre, Oerve, or something like that. Whatever it is, that's mine.
Oh, okay. A new word on me, actually, as well. So
my new shtick.
Okay. Are you on social media at all?
I am not. I'm thinking I better at some point in the very near future. What should I join?
I would say Instagram. Because you're going to watch a lot of very talented actors who are doing the short little videos. They're creating their own videos.
All right. We have a Facebook page for the movie and a Twitter page, I think. But I think I'll just maybe get myself on Instagram and start plundering that universe.
Well, Joel, I really appreciate you being here today. Got some great new insights that, on the horror film world. And thank you for making Keanu Reeves, and especially for all the fans that I told that you were going to be on. They're like, oh my God, Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, had I known that was a big deal, I would have, hey, Keanu, get over here. No, but that won't happen. Anyway, well, thank you for being so fun to talk to. I really enjoyed myself.
Absolutely. This has been awesome.
Hope you enjoyed today's School of Hollywood. I did. I learned some great new insights. Please tell your friends about the podcast, and if you could take a moment and write a review for us, because we want to go up the charts, and the only way we can do that is with your help on the School of Hollywood.